everyone, Jason Gilbo here at JGilbo11, breaking down Justin Elick, aka Big Italy 42's DraftKings wide receiver analysis article for Week 12. He's off again this week, should rejoin us next week if you're looking for him. But cash game wideouts this week, he's looking at Larry Fitzgerald, 7K on DraftKings, take on the Falcons. On the road, 23 team total, you got to expect this game to be fairly high scoring as Vegas does. But you're also looking at Fitzgerald here, who's been one of the more consistent DK guys, this season. So, you look at his numbers here, Justin lists them off. I'm not going to read all of those because that's just insane, but he does. So you can check him out here, all of what he's done this season. Fitz ties, the NFL lead in 10 targets inside the 10-yard line. Obviously, we know that Bruce Arians does look to go towards him in the red zone. I do like Fitzgerald. I think he's got a relatively decent matchup this week against a pretty mediocre secondary in Atlanta. Our projection has him ranked, fairly high, 18.37, decent cafe value. So I certainly like Larry Fitzgerald there. Rishard Matthews is another guy that Justin's looking at, 5,800 on the road against the Bears. The price is starting to come up. But over the last 4 weeks, as Justin points out, Matthews is averaging 19.4 DK points per game. Middle of the road matchup here against Chicago. You look at the way Mariota's been playing of late, has been playing very solid. I think, with Mariota playing so well, with Matthews playing so well, and obviously the snap counts have been up for Matthews, which obviously is a plus, makes him a bit easier to put into cash games. A little pricey for me. He's not quite the value that he used to be, but I still think in terms of what he's been doing of late in the matchup, fairly solid for the price, so I certainly like him. GPP wideouts, Justin's looking at Doug Baldwin, 6,400, on road against the Bucks. If you're coming over from basically any other article or any other analysis from our site this week, we're big fans of Doug Baldwin. Middle of the road matchup in terms of a wide receiver rank, but obviously you look at Baldwin in a plus spot. And, overall, obviously you don't anticipate him throwing touchdowns. Obviously that happened last week, but you look at him, averaging about 6 targets over the last couple of weeks here. Good red zone targets. He's tied with Jimmy Graham in Seahawks red zone targets. And 6,400, I just came over from the stacking article, which Justin did, talking about Seattle, and it's not a pricey one. You got a relatively cheap Russell Wilson, a cheap Doug Baldwin, a cheap Jimmy Graham. I think Baldwin fits in nicely, and obviously we know the upside, as he puts out here, 52 DK points over the last 2 weeks. Obviously a majority of that happened in that New England game, but if we go back to last year, we go back to that second half stretch that Baldwin had with Wilson, there was just tremendous upside for 5-6 weeks, and it was like if you faded Baldwin and you faded him, up until that 4th week, you were basically struggling. So, we're seeing a healthy Russell Wilson, a healthy Seattle offense that's looked pretty good in the passing game right now. Sterling Shepard, interesting one here, 5,500. Obviously, this is a swerve off of OBJ, and basically a swerve off of the running game. Looking at Sterling Shepard here, who, gets a great matchup here. Obviously he points out they're 31st against wide receiver ones. Against, that would be OBJ. Number 2 against Sterling Shepard here, they rank 29th. So a pretty good pivot here, and I like the price here, 5,500. Good team total. Expecting Eli Manning to have a decent day. I think in terms of upside, it's certainly there if they don't like to run the ball a ton, which they probably should, but I still think there's going to be enough to go around for this offense. So I like Shepard here. I think this is a good call. You're definitely going to get him at lower ownership, so definitely a decent play here. Value wide receivers, Devante Parker, 4,700, taking on the 49ers. They rank 23rd per Parker's wide receiver rank. And you look at this one, you look at what he's done over the last few games, he's been very solid. 13 of 18 targets, a good matchup against the 49ers. You look at Justin, he likes him in all formats here, GPP and cash games. I think for the price, you can make an argument there that it's very solid. You look at the way 49ers are allowing a ton of points to wide receivers. You look at this team, they were just shredded by New England. Obviously, this is a different offense, but this is a team that just gets decimated week in and week out. 49ers play up pace. That should help the Miami Dolphins play up just a little bit more than they usually do, which isn't a whole lot, but it definitely gives them a bump. Next one here, Tyler Boyd. So obviously we talked about a couple of these guys in the stacks, but Boyd's his preferred target. Obviously Brandon LaFell's been there all year long, but really hasn't made a tremendous difference on the outside. 4K. It's really I feel like it's a low risk. I mean, Justin has it high, it's risky, but I think at that price, I think at the ownership that, we've seen, I think DK had him as one of their featured value plays of the week. So you're going to see a decent amount of ownership here. Obviously coming off a good game when AJ Green left the game early. A matchup where, the Ravens aren't necessarily the strongest in the secondary, especially if Jimmy Smith sits again. But overall, I mean, this is a team that they have given up a lot of big games to wideouts, and I don't think Andy Dalton and Tyler Boyd are a horrible one to target. So I certainly can look for them for value. I think it's a decent play this week. Tyler Boyd, obviously, one of the, prolific type kind of wide receivers coming out of the draft. So, I think this is a fine option. So, if you want to check out the wide receiver DraftKings article for Week 12, head on over to DaveFantasyCafe.com and check out Justin's article and check out the rest of our Week 12 content.